Well, another year, another toy fair in the books. It's the first proper New York toy fair in over 5 years. Last time it was this awkward show in September 2023 where everything shown off was already literally on holiday shelves, and now it's back in the early spring. And while it wasn't exactly a massive show, there were fewer than 1,000 presenters this time, I think this show was much higher quality this time around. There were a bunch of interesting new ideas and toys, a couple of surprises, a couple of letdowns, some amazing set pieces, and absolutely enormous displays, but thankfully, unlike the Consumer Electronics Show, not much in the way of the dreaded AI nonsense. In fact, all of the representatives I talked to knew that it was a taboo subject, and, I mean, would you leave your child alone around a generative AI fraud bot? Again, thanks to how my channel has narrowed in scope in recent years, I was able to get pretty much everything on my list finished in a single day. While I didn't get into the booth this time around, LEGO had this wonderful display of their botanicals line. I am happy to see a line from them that isn't some sort of licensed nonsense doing so well. The folks in my family are all both hopeless fidgeters and really bad with plants, so we all have a little bouquet of these sorts set on our desks. A bunch of brands have been making these sorts of flowers lately, though, as a good Texas boy, my first one was the Bricktanicals Blue Bonnet. Gotta love all of these classy sets. Speaking of booths I didn't get into, I didn't manage to get into the Spin Master booth this year either, though according to the folks I talked to, I didn't miss much. They did, however, have an external display of their new surefire hit toy, the Hand Guillotine. Oh no, I know I shouldn't have made a bet with those questionable mobsters! Yeah! It's a bracelet maker, I was joking. Speaking of booths I didn't get into, I also didn't get into Hasbro this year either, but, you know, who needs Beyblades when you can have Crayblades? Crayola made these Color Worlds tops last year where you load a marker into a spinner and let it go, but I couldn't resist giving them a better name. Apparently a ring-type arena to keep their drawing contained is on the way. Hopefully. And who needs Nerf when Ken has Dart Zone? A bit different from Air Zone, Dart Zone has a greater emphasis in performance and customization. Like, I was actually allowed to build one of their Nitro Shot kits, a new concept they're trying out where you assemble the blaster yourself. The Nitro Shot is a little single-shot blaster that can fold shut and fit into a back pocket like a switchblade. Makes for a fun fidget as well. Also has a bit of a heavy trigger and a lot of kick. This is because there aren't any limiters, you know, those sorts of peg things in the Nerf guns. That means all of the punch gets delivered from the piston. You actually get to assemble both the trigger mechanism, the locking mechanism, and the safety switch feature yourself, so you understand the mechanics behind what you're making. And it's not just a silly experiment, they're also introducing interchangeable parts, such as this triple barrel, which I was given since I had an appointment with them. A 3D printed prototype, that's pretty cool. Though with this leftover barrel, I gotta wonder. Yep. I do hope they lean more into this angle of hard customization, as custom dart gun work that involves modifying the internals actually has a pretty huge scene. The lack of a limiter is a pretty big step in and of itself. There's a little tactical rail on the single barrel intended for dangling charms, but if you're looking for a real suggestion for what to put on there, how about a scope/extra dart holder? And who needs, I say, who needs magic when we have both a confirmed release date and distributor for Cookie Run Braveverse in the United States? ACD Distribution has taken up the mantle for finally getting this game stateside about a year after it was predicted to, with a full spread of all 5 decks at the start and 9-card English language booster packs with a nice, aggressive $3.50 MSRP. That means that their 28 pack boxes, complete with topper, are under $100 retail. There's actually some code cards as well that allow you to unlock benefits in the actual game. They slipped me a couple of things on the sly, though these are the Asian English versions of the packs sold in places like Singapore with only 5 cards and no guaranteed rare. but I assume the American versions of the cards, at least text-wise, will be identical. Honestly, I hope folks in America give this game a chance. It has sort of a fun twist on a bunch of old systems, and is genuinely easy to learn compared to so many other games. If you run a store, I have the contact info you need, so feel free to reach out. She eating burgie. Moving around, Asmodee had a few Star Wars cards on a display table that was impossible to film on. Ravensburger kinda had Lorcana tucked away in the back for whatever reason, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Decided to give the enlarged art treatment to this freaking thing. And Bandai didn't have any card games with them at all. Apparently, it's a completely different building that handles card games, who knew? However, I was able to wiggle into the Bandai booth to see what they had in store. Thanks to the popularity of Ultraman Rising, we got a nice Ultraman presence in the form of a lot of the typical inexpensive Japanese merchandise, such as these little collectible dolls, the very ones I used to make my skit from the Ultraman video. Would be nice to not have to import those anymore. They had some Dragon Ball Daima stuff, including a playable working version of the Power Pole, and I don't care what his official name is, he'll always be Gohan Blanco in my heart. I really wanted to like superheroes, but it fumbled the ball so hard. They were repping their model kits as well, of course, including Gundam, with their latest series in the long-running franchise named, Anyway, alongside that, they had their usual Pokemon model kits and a new series of dinosaur building kits, where you put together both the dinosaur and its skeleton inside. They gave me a special Velociraptor one to put together later, and apparently these can be done without any clippers or glue. High quality stuff. They're also trying to expand into the world of more general products, such as a Jaws bath bomb with a toy inside that turns the bathwater blood red. They also showed off Nanoblock. They already had some great mini Pokemon sets last time, and it looks like they've expanded outwards. Even they are doing the botanicals thing. I was given some of that too. Again, sadly, the card games are a different department. Would love to know how to petition them to bring the games next year, even if it is just a token effort. A few shoutouts. Playper is a fun little collection of toys made out of pre-cut cardboard with the advantage of shipping flat. They handed me a single character envelope, and I gotta say, I would love to see more stuff designed like this. They had a game made to use with the figures that's a little bit like Dixit, meant more to form connections with emotional intelligence, and a new set that features pirates and mermaids, and I gotta say, I think the nerdy NASA mermaid is peak visual design. Sweet Robo, which also made their appearance at the Consumer Electronics Show this year, had a series of machines that can vend things like soft serve ice cream, candy floss, and even balloons. I can see these balloon ones specifically appearing at theme parks and other attractions, saving time, space, and money by not requiring the balloons to all be inflated beforehand and risk being wasted. Nice, efficient use of space, and because it uses an air blower instead of helium, the balloons will last a whole lot longer. Warlord Games, makers of historical wargame Bolt Action, were showing off their stuff in the form of a starter kit that included a nice detailed manual that gives tips on how to build and color the units for historical accuracy. I personally have always been a little bit leery of historicals, as it is recreating actual events that hurt people, and I mean, somebody's gotta play the baddies. Thankfully, there is some great Bolt Action content online, like an Indiana Jones variant, and even a Dad's Army scenario made with figures that Warlord themselves produced. Nacelle is one of several companies making high-grade action figures of old classics like Biker Mice from Mars and Cowboys of Moo Mesa? Now that's an obscure one. Tomy was showing off Doteki, a sort of free-form crossfire game where each player has a pinball paddle to fire marbles inside of a stretchy barricade connected by life keys that tick down to defeat as the game goes on. Like air hockey, players are encouraged to move their paddle around and even thrust when pushing the ball, though be careful not to damage yourself in the process. Scentco, the folks who made the busted Bedtime Defenders line last year, this time made a line that I think makes more sense for a company called Scentco. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And finally, I was invited to take a look at the Blokees booth. Blokees is a Chinese company that makes things ranging from miniature model kits to figurines you assemble. They showed me some of their Transformer model kits and even gave me a special EX Elite Bumblebee figure rendered in gold. Wait, gold? Wouldn't that mean he's not Bumblebee, but, you know, Goldbug? And yeah, it doesn't transform, but it's cheaper than the ones that do. Hey Hasbro, you wonder why nobody's buying your toys? I'm not joking, this is the cheapest Transformer they make. They used to be like $7. They also have a bunch of Ultraman sets, some unmentionables, their own series of figures, and Sesame Street?
Bert, help! I've fallen and I can't get up!
It was all my fault, Ernie.
Their smaller kits are mostly sold in blind boxes, but they can ship you a complete set directly if you like. Also, the Sesame Street ones are thankfully not in blind boxes, and you can order whichever character you want. And so, that's another New York Toy Fair in the books. A lot of displays were really stepped up this time around, and even in the day I spent, I got to do a lot. I painted like Bob Ross, sat upon a mighty throne, went to a show at a nearby pub, and launched a gnome with a catapult. Thanks again, Toy Fair. Hopefully some of the stuff I showed off on here will appear again in the future, but until then, that was Toy Fair New York, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off. I've got some models to go build.